We're about to remove a press-in type bearing from the rear of a 2004 Honda CRV. This is just front-wheel drive, so there's no axle to worry about. All right, first thing, this is the original bearing that we removed from the right side. Right now, we're removing the bearing from the left side. So what you want to do, you want to be able to use one of the hooks that comes with the press kit and install it where the small hook presses on the inner race. This is the inner race, this is the outer race, and this is the bearing cage. So with the inner race being in here, there are two rows of bearings. It makes it a strong, very strong surface to press on. So what we do, we will install the puck on, get it centered. Oh, now get it centered. Then we will also measure here. What we want to do is just get the bearing started past the snap ring, which I removed earlier. Okay, once we get it past the snap ring and it's flush, basically you're not able to go anywhere past this surface. So okay, we got everything kind of snugged up. We have a ratchet holding the bolt behind here, so that when we put some torque on it, we don't have to worry about it slipping, or we don't have to worry about holding it. Okay, so instructions said not to use the impact, but this thing needs a lot of torque and it's easier to use an impact to remove it. Okay, so here we go.
I'll try to hold it on the camera at the same time.
Okay, that's it. We're going to remove this flat puck and put a cup. Okay, now we got this flush against the board. So what we're going to do is use a cup that's large enough to allow the bearing to come through, pass through. Okay, so we're going to take this, install that over here, and
that was the same puck from before for front, right?
this is I'm using a different puck.
Okay.
So you want to get this centered and not interfere with the wheel bearing coming out. So here we go. And that's it. Wheel bearing is out. It's been in there probably since 2004. And we are good to go. So all we have to do now is clean this area, lightly lubricate it, and put it all back together. There's one thing that I failed to show you how to do. That is to remove the hub from the actual wheel bearing. Okay, on this car, since this is a rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, there's no axle for sake. So they use this stubby axle to basically hold the wheel bearing together. So this goes from the back through the wheel bearing, through the hub, and there is a nut that secures it all together to hold the wheel bearing tightly. Once you get this bolted onto the studs, the lug studs, you will just use this to basically remove it, and it separates easily once the shaft is removed. So the only thing about this, you have to be careful of smashing your fingers. So only hold it here and just be careful. Okay, just words of warning. Safety is the most important thing. So now we're going to go ahead and clean it up and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back again. All right, so I've selected a couple pucks to use to install the bearing. So this puck, the larger puck, is going to go at the back of the bore to support the actual screw that goes in, the bolt that used to press in the bearing. Okay, so we're going to put this at the back, get it centered. Just concentrate on here. So, oops. You can edit a lot of this stuff. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, now we just want to set the bearing in here. One thing I want to show you, this bearing can be used for both ABS and non-ABS. This would go in first, or I push it in first anyhow. Okay, so you'll just take this, center that, use the other puck. The other puck, you want it where it presses on the outer race. You don't want to press on the center race, or you don't want to press on the bearing seal. That will destroy it and shorten the life of the actual wheel bearing. So we get this all together. It's a little crooked right now. Get that all together. And also you want to make sure that it's centered. You want to also make sure that when the puck goes in to press the wheel bearing past the snap ring groove, that it doesn't get stuck in there. So if you use too large of a puck, it will definitely get stuck. Okay, and here we go again, and that's it. They remove everything. What we could do, leave this here for now. We want to go ahead and install the snap ring before we put the hub back together. And I have a brand new hub, so that we don't have to deal with getting this off. And we got new studs. Those been on there since the car was new, since the car was built. So it's always good to replace it. So we got the snap ring in, and basically just want to tap it one direction, tap it the other direction, make sure that it's seated, and just tap it in, and you're good to go. Now we need to install the hub. So what we do, we can't use the same puck to. All right, we're ready to install the hub. So what you want to do, you want to support the inner race. You don't want to press on the seal. So basically, once you're pressing the hub in, the two inner races will try to separate and push if you were to support just the outer race, you'll separate the two, maybe damage the seal or the wheel bearing or the inner race. So you don't want to do that. You want to go ahead, support the inner race on the back side. So we'll take this, install that here. We'll also use this puck. This area kind of helps centers the unit, and you want to make sure that the shaft is clean. We go ahead, get that started. It's like a puzzle sometimes, but we're going to get it together. So you just try to support it. The inner race will move, but you want to just try to support it where it doesn't fall out of place. Even if it falls apart, you could put it back together as long as the seal doesn't get damaged. So here we go again. Make sure that this is centered, and Here we go. Okay, it's not all the way seated, but that's not an issue. So we still have to install the
Axle puck?
stubby axle.
Okay.
So I like using anti-seize, especially on stuff like this. Alright, so I like using anti-seize because sometimes moisture gets in here, and with the it's not just the Midwest environment, but with moisture comes rust. These are all steel parts. There's no stainless steel or anything like that. So a small amount of anti-seize goes a long way. You don't have to cake it on. Just brush it in, get some in those grooves, in those blinds, get some on the thread, and you're good to go. Like I said, a little bit goes a long way. So you install the axle with the nut to get that started. And what I like to do is just use a screwdriver, extension, long extension, something like that. Just torque it down. I give it extra torque so that it brings the axle or the inner race together, and that way you don't have to worry about this gap in between. What I will do, I will go ahead now. On my impact, I have several settings. I'm away from my house at a customer's home, so I'm not able to. I don't have my torque wrench. But how much was the torque?
I think it was 134.
134. Okay, so 134 foot-pounds or pound-feet of torque. So my hefty Hercules. So I put it on the low setting, and I'm gonna, since I backed it off, I'll just, that doesn't seem like enough, and we're good to go. The only thing I have to do now is lubricate everything. Now, what I normally do, especially on brake jobs, I'll lubricate the face of the hub, and that way it reduces the possibility of the hub sticking to the rotor. Okay, don't have to be a Picasso, but paint it on. As I say, a little goes a long way. So you don't need to have it where it's piling up. Also, to prevent galling of the threads, put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. You don't have to go all the way around. A little goes a long way. Okay? The last thing I need to do is spike the axle nut so that we don't have to worry about it backing off. See this groove here? That is used to make an indentation so that you don't have to worry about the nut backing off. And that's it. Okay, now we could use this video showing how to do a proper brake job. Since we just did the wheel bearing, we're going to go ahead and put the brakes back together. Basically, everything will be in reverse from the way it came off. With a brake job, you want to keep stuff clean. The rotor has a little bit of anti-seize. We just need to take that, clean it off a little bit, and we're good. So, get that all cleaned up. We always use some brake grease. You can get them in many ways. You can get it like this, or you can get it in a can with a brush on it. Okay. All right, before we install the brake hardware, and what we always like to do is lubricate the moving parts. So we'll use a synthetic brake grease. Basically, you just put a light coat on it on here. A little goes a long way, so it doesn't have to be, kicked on. Okay. We did the brakes about a couple weeks ago, so they were lubricated then. Just want to double check them. If they need grease, you just put a light coat of grease. Reinstall the pins, makes them slide easily, and that way you don't have to worry about the pins locking up. If the pins gets locked up, more than likely it's cheaper or it's easier to get a brake caliper with the brake caliper bracket. Sometimes these are very difficult to find. All depends on what kind of vehicle you're using. Okay. You also want to make sure that there's no grease in between here. So basically, clean it out a little bit. And then we could install the bracket. Okay, so just torque the bracket good and tight. I've been doing this for many years, so stuff like this, I really don't need a torque wrench. Okay, what I also like to do is put a little bit of grease on this area, and that allows the pads to slide easily. Like I said before, it's not a lot of you don't need to load it up with grease. Basically, a small amount will last for a while. Helps the brake pads to slide easily once you apply and release the brakes. The brake pad doesn't move very much, probably about less than 5/1000 of an inch. So that's not a whole lot of movement. So previously we had lubricated the back of the pads. I like to lubricate the back of the pads. That helps with noise abatement, so that it will reduce the amount of noise that the brakes make. Brakes inherently makes noise. No matter how much you pay for the brakes, they tend to be a little bit noisy. So there's no way around getting rid of all the noise. So basically, we just button it up, and all done. The only thing I forgot to do is to install these screws to basically they're just used to hold the rotor on while there's nothing safety about it.